In the beginning of my activism journey, I used to record video footage of the elderly being lit on fire. I couldn't believe that the elderly were being lit on fire just for people's auditory pleasure to hear the sizzle on their skin. So, though I now regret it, I got deeply involved in the activist movement against lighting the elderly on fire. But as I was doing the investigating and the activism, it made me so angry at the people who were lighting the elderly on fire. So I was angry, not happy, and this is about me. But even back to the beginning of my journey of activism against lighting the elderly people on fire, I just had an outpouring of authenticity desire to light the elderly people aflame in a moral and ethical way. One day I was measuring my fertility interconnectedness, hormone symbiology, and I realized that the group that I was part of, that I did activism with, had a label. In an instant, the microbes and the soil's sentience crept up my toes all the way up my spine and poured out from the top of my crown chakra, coming down and tickling the vibration of every square centimeter of my skin where small microcosms of dust mites dwelled. I stopped trying to control it and I surrendered to the fear that was enveloping me of being labeled as against lighting the elderly on fire. I knew there was only one solution to let my innermost self of the seventh layer come out to play in a way that it hasn't been, because in my entire healing journey, it has been cowered in the corner with an umbrella to shield itself from my many shedding skins and identities. I knew that I had to find an ethical way to light the elderly on fire. It was the outer culmination of all of this connectivity, as well as the experiential experience of when one of the activists in the group against lighting the elderly on fire asked me why I was wearing boots made from the skin of elderly. And if you haven't experienced that kind of experience, then you have not experienced such an experience. When that activist asked me that question, I instantly forgot the sounds of the elderly people that were screaming and burning that we were there to film. Suddenly, the only invigorating senses that I could sense was the budding of a flower in the springtime, budding the sensation of discomfort as the bee gives the flower the kiss of the sweet opening of its mind so that it can become a real flower, so natural, so untouched, so free of toxins and chemicals, so one with all that is around it. From that point forward, I could not unsee my truth that judging someone for wearing someone's skin is worse than lighting someone on fire. That evening, I went home and I found the girl who shamed me on Instagram. I could just see from her pictures that her mind was closed behind the iron ores of a chemical waste plant. And then I could not look away from what I saw. She posted a picture of herself eating a Beyond Burger and wearing a dress from fast fashion. After I saw this, my organs started vibrating and my consciousness started dwelling in the depths of indescribable suffering as I imagined the leaking chemicals from the dress and the burger leaking into her skin and flowing down the local water streams. I started scrolling on the homepage to get that image out of my mind, and I was scrolling past all of the people that I follow from the Against Lighting the Elderly on Fire movement. I scrolled past dozens of posts of them talking about how they're raising awareness for other human rights and earth issues and getting clothing and technology secondhand, raising awareness about exploitation of workers in food industries, and sharing tips on how they grow their own food as much as they possibly can with the little resources that are available to them. I promptly ignored these people and decided that there was no possible way that I could continue refraining from lighting the elderly on fire while also refraining from other unethical practices the way I have been doing for multiple years without any problems. One morning when I awoke at 4:30 a.m. and I was contemplating the mucus left behind by the slithering morning snail and the dewy drop of water that gives energetic connection to the wise and pure witness who does not judge or label circumstances. I remember when I hung out with my partner who lights the elderly on fire, as well as my friends who also partake in lighting the elderly on fire, and we danced all night long, and nobody judged anybody else for their purchases, aside from me when I found out that my friend was eating processed tortillas. But that's not relevant to the story. I quickly compared it to my experience of being my truest authenticity, outermost, innermost, outer standing, higher self. The self that I was without chains beholding me from being when I spent that evening with my partner and friends, to the indescribable pain that I felt when that activist confronted me about my boots. So you may be wondering, what am I now supporting now that I no longer have the tyrannous, strangulating, suffocating label of against lighting the elderly on fire? To answer your question, I am on a journey of surrendering to hearing the divine unfoldment journey of Mother Earth vibes as she smiles down on the journey of figuring out the way to light the elderly on fire that she would approve of. I can imagine that the anti-lighting elderly people on fire activists will have many judgments to inflict upon me, but you can support my journey as I support your journey. Through communion with nature, I have manifested ethical means of which to obtain ethical lighting of the elderly on fire, but I do not live to please others, so I will not be giving a description of that process. If you meditate on it, you might come to your own conclusion that the things my money supports when I pay for this does not matter. The only thing that truly matters is that now I can stop hiding who I really am, and I can listen to the sizzling of the elderly's skin as they are aflame. I now get to be my truest self that expands energy down to my microbiome, that spreads the energy into bursts of my truth. Becoming so open-minded has allowed me the freedom to pay homage to the journey of the elderly person engulfed in flames as I look into their eyes as their soul leaves their body. I believe that if all human beings dwelling on planet Earth could release their urge to judge others for hurting others, then we could achieve world peace. When I tap into my highest potentials and knowings, I envision a world where the sanctuaries where elderly people are currently being protected from being lit on fire could start to journey into the journey of stewardship and integrate live cremation regeneratively. Body, mind, skin, earth, ants, journey, connectivity, fire, heal.